Why am I always so tired when I'm doing these? I swear it's unintentional. I'm not that bored by books. Some more than others, obviously, but today is a Don DeLillo's White Noise, which was on my shelf for quite some time. Probably most of this year. It's basically, it's called postmodern. It's been called like kind of early forerunner to postmodernism. And a lot of different authors like David Foster Wallace or trying to think of maybe like Jonathan Lethem. I'm not too keen on the names right now, like the really kind of more so modern. Maybe don't know what's his name. Pat McSweeney's Dave Eggers. Yeah, I think those would be kind of like people in the postmodern realm, I guess. So somewhat tied in with that. So yeah, this book is a kind of the original kind of I don't know if he like kind of coined the term, but like as far as the style goes, with like kind of a sharp kind of attack against criticism and invectives against consumerism without, necessarily kind of just like moralizing about it, but just kind of like within the characters themselves. Like a lot of them, for instance, are like they keep going back and forth to like a shopping center that's where it's like a weird sense of calm for a lot of them. And it's the main character Jack Glaspie, and they all like go to bed and watch TV, and they wake up watching kind of TVs on the background all the time. Which seems to be a kind of a, even though this was written in 1985, kind of pretty on the ball, I think, for a lot of the stuff that's happening today. Like, I know I've been around people who kind of have the TV on as basically as an ambiance, just like at all times, just kind of like they can't live without it kind of thing. They just need that white noise. They're not even watching. They're not even engaged. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, the TV's on. Yeah, it helps me sleep or something. It's just like, wow. I don't know how they do that. It's way too much overstimulation for me, at least. Not to say that I'm any better or any less. I have my own kind of distractions as well. Really dumb internet videos being one of them. But yeah, so yeah, White Noise is about, let me put this down because I'm not really going to read from it today, but it's hard to describe what it's about. There's 3 acts in it, so it has a structure. I'm always lost in the details of the novels, but yeah, it's about a middle-aged guy named Jack Glaspie who's a professor of like Hitler studies. Yeah, odd, I know, but it somehow makes it work. I don't know, like how it's like kind of like something that you might find in kind of it takes place in a place that's called Iron City, I think, which kind of made me a little bit curious right away as to whether or not he was referring to Pittsburgh obliquely, because that's one of the terms for Pittsburgh too, is like Iron City or Steel City, and that's kind of where I'm from. Not to disclose my location too much. I'm not giving my address out here, just the general. Pittsburgh is always my periphery. Either way, Steelers and all that. I'm not a sports fan if that's not obvious enough. But yeah, so it takes place in Iron City. It's like a college town. Jack Glaspie has like literally 7 different kids from 4 different, or I think 5 different marriages, I think. Like he was married twice to one person. And then he has like, I think 7 kids from all the combined marriages from all of them. And then I'd say the main character is him, Jack Glaspie, professor at this university, and then his wife, Babette, Babette, I think. Interesting name. And she's like, kind of like her life. Like they have like this like funny kind of. Well, it's kind of dour a little bit, but it's a little bit funny in my mind, in the hindsight about which one of them is going to die first. And I think like Babette is like the one that's like kind of like, no, it's like it should be me that it should be me that dies first, or no, wait, I can't remember if it was her that wanted to, or no, it's like Jack keeps saying like, no, it's like it should be me that dies first, and like they kept they keep going back and forth like and saying like what would happen if like the kids, like who would take care of the kids, like, and then like him saying like you would be a way better caretaker to them, you're a lot more attentive to their needs and stuff. And yeah, it's like kind of I think the reason that shows up a lot, like this reference to death, is probably because it's like no matter how much of this relentless consumer just like endless kind of just consumption of like the products and TV and going to the grocery store, and no matter how much of that, like he can't jettison the thought of death from his mind, and that kind of like remains a static throughout the novel. So yeah, it's told from Jack Gillespie's point of view, so it's like kind of you get an unreliable narrator type of thing. Yeah, and he's just, he has his kids, and one of them, I think his name's Heinrich. It's a German name, suspiciously German. He's like a 14-year-old, like, kind of prodigious child. Like, he's very smart. And then there's another kid. There's basically not a lot takes place, but there's, like, him and this other professor, Murray. And Murray's basically, he comes from a different city. He's like a sports writer, and then he comes to Iron City, and they're basically, they talk about, they have like a weird kind of, they both have lectures, like a coterminous taking place at the same time, I think, with like one of them, Murray's talking about Elvis and like his, how he was, like Elvis's relationship with his mother or something, and then, basically those in that, and then Hitler's, his study on Hitler's, like, his lecture on Hitler's childhood and his mother take place in the same time, and they're just kind of like, it's like a back and forth thing. I thought that was kind of funny. It's really dry too. It's like the tone's like just very like dry, just from his point of view, just kind of like da 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 hum, which doesn't dissuade me from reading the novel at all. I mean, I was still invested in the plot and what was going on. So yeah, not a lot happens, like I said. It's like kind of like a slow, it's kind of like a sedentary town. Like a lot of people just kind of like don't really think too much. They don't really care too much about what goes on in the outside world, which comes back to haunt them in a way, I guess. And then suddenly there's the airborne toxic event that takes place, which is the pivotal moment when, basically there's some emissions that took place. The details are, again, lost on me. But it's like some type of, I don't know if it's a plant or some power plant or something that like failed, and then there was like an explosion in the sky maybe that like caused all this airborne noxious type of stuff to just kind of leak into the sky, and basically Jack Gillespie ends up smoking or inhaling some of this stuff incidentally, of course, and he's like officially just like off his rockers, mad and like scared about death, like that fear of dying is like heightened, especially. And then him and Babette are, like she basically is like out of fear for him, starts like seeing this other guy, Mr. Gray, I think that's his pseudonym, who's like a very eccentric type of doctor guy that has this thing called can't remember it's the name of it, but he has a drug that's like supposed to be kind of like this anodyne, well, not anodyne, but like kind of a panacea that's like for this thing. And he's like, yes, I have this drug that you can take, and it will heal you magically somehow. And kind of remind me a bit of Cancer Ward. There's like all these kind of like people got really desperate for these different things, and it kind of reminded me of not too much on like what's going on now with like the different kind of, or maybe in recent history, I guess, last few years, I guess. It's been a few years already. But yeah, with like COVID-19 and all that, with like the virus and like all these different people saying like, oh, this, like this is like the cure-all for that, or like, like we have, all these weird like type of, not necessarily snake oil salesmen, but like kind of down that direction, like not more than a stone's throw away from like kind of just pseudoscience, from what I've heard. So, but I'm not going to get too much into that. But yeah, it's like this Mr. Gray guy, it kind of, spoiler alert, he basically ends up trying to, because Mr. Gray was having an affair with his wife, Babette, and he's trying to get like more of this stuff so he can, and then this stuff ends up kind of like affecting his mind and making him like almost like psychotic. And then he's basically ends up buying a gun, and he's like, this guy, Vernon, I think his name is like, it's just like kind of drops by, and I think he might have known him a bit from before. Basically all of them at this point, they move because they can't live in Iron City anymore, because it's, obviously it's all kind of cleared off, and they're trying to move kind of, I think, out west, I guess. So it's vaguely Midwest, I think. They're kind of like, yeah, you have to move it out this way, away from the airborne toxic crap in the air, and they're all like on the road doing, and yeah, there's some interesting more kind of things to do with like consumer kind of brand type of things. Like there's lots of like radios, like things going on, and lots of things with like a point where like one of their daughter, like they're like it's like supposed to be pretty young, I guess, impressionable, I guess, and she's just like reciting, or she keeps like screaming Toyota this or that, Toyota this or that. She's like kind of in like she's like losing her mind almost. Yeah, so it basically ends with him like, I guess like not, Mr. Gray is basically presumed not to be everything that he is, and then he's like basically thinking about killing him, with this gun that he buys from this Vernon guy, and then he ends up kind of not going through with it, I think, and then yeah, it kind of ends on this kind of like in a midair kind of thing, like kind of up in the air a little bit, like what happens, like he's like his son's like kind of like everything's kind of back to normal, I guess, and I guess that toxic event kind of moved onward, I suppose. But yeah, it's like pretty interesting, I'd say. It's definitely not for everybody, I'd say. It took me a little bit while to get used to that kind of dry, barren tone, but seeing as how the novel does take place in kind of very almost not post-apocalyptic, even though it's like kind of like you wouldn't expect it to be that like that out of bounds, like crazy, like it's not dystopian, I wouldn't say, but well, I think actually it would be a little bit more dystopian than post-apocalyptic, but definitely not like The Road with Cormac McCarthy, where it's just like total desolate, bleak, like end of the world stuff. So, but it's stuff that like things that have potentiality, like things that could have been like, like it's something like a nuclear fallout, for example, like in the Cold War and all that, like that. Those are all like very big maybes. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. Very biting kind of commentary against. A lot of them have like I forgot to mention like these kind of funny conversations where they just kind of spout random facts about stuff like. Did you know that like monkeys don't do this or do that? Like their conversations are so like non sequitur and just kind of like all of them basically like Babette or Jack and their kids just kind of just spout, especially Heinrich. They all just kind of like and there's like this big thing where they're Heinrich's one of his friends is like trying to who's a bit older than him is trying to stay in this like do a danger cut kind of world record breaking type of thing where he's like trying to stay in this cage with a poisonous snakes for like I think like 90 days or something, just something ridiculous like that. I guess that kind of like was like that was kind of in lieu or kind of just a continuation of like the same kind of like crazy kind of like entertainment type based things where you're always trying to like up the ante and always trying to they're all just like. And then Jack Lasby like kind of had a moment of clarity, and he's just like saying like how dumb that was. It's like don't you care that you're gonna get bit and you're gonna risk your life for just like some little check mark? I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, White Noise by Don DeLillo. Thank you very much.